Greetings and welcome to L.A. Quill. Today we're diving into Chapter 3 of Arianna's tale. So when do we return to Akana Valley? Tarius asked, helping himself to another piece of soft cheese, stuffing it in his mouth. Even though the food was better than anything he'd ever tasted in his life, he was tired of the city. He'd go anywhere, even return home if it meant leaving this dull place. Not that it was a bad place. He just missed the fields and the forests he was so used to, and he was getting just a little bored. A year within the walls of the city and having nothing to do for most of that time was just a bit much for him. He had lived his entire life in the country, and he was beginning to get just a bit claustrophobic. Darian looked up from the letter his sister had sent, a slight smile on his face. Whenever we choose, I guess. Ari wants us there as soon as is possible. No delays. He dropped the letter and reached for some more fruit. She set a timeline of 1 month. She's probably pretty anxious to see us. It's been almost 3 years, after all. He missed his sweet little sister. It had been far too long since he had seen her. A servant filled their cups with more wine. Why don't we just leave now instead of waiting? If we ride hard, we could be there in just a few days, Tarius asked, his mouth full of food again. We really have nothing to do here, and I'm beyond bored. He grabbed a piece of venison to go with his cheese. The food was the one thing about Scytha that he would truly miss. Darian smiled, wondering if Tarius would ever stop eating, then decided that he already knew the answer. For all he ate, Tarius never gained a pound, something the women of the city obviously envied. He stroked the falcon that had carried Arianna's message absently as the bird settled down for a nap. What? You wish to leave the hospitality of my esteemed father? I thought you liked him. Rolling his eyes, Tarius replied, I do like him. He's the one who has no love for me. That's not the point anyway. This place has become boring. We're wasted here. Surely we can find something better to do with our time. Visiting Arianna is just the start. We need to do something. He shifted into a more comfortable position, decidedly tired of Darian's suite, regardless of how luxurious it was. The city, for all its beauty, had long since lost its appeal. I agree, Darian said softly, hating to admit it. But he wasn't really sure he was ready to go home yet. There was a lot of pain for him in Akana Valley, though he did his level best not to acknowledge it unless he absolutely had to. He'd never been very good at dealing with his emotions. He was, however, very good at changing the subject. If you're looking for excitement, why don't we try the Mountains of Mylara again? That was certainly exciting. Tarius laughed, thinking of their experience in the mountains last year. Exciting is an understatement. We both almost died. That was not an exaggeration. They'd been laid up for days afterwards. Darian smiled. What's life without a little risk? Come on, we'll try the southern pass this time. It can't be worse than the ice shelf. His smile turned daring. He knew his friend couldn't resist a challenge, and this was certainly a challenge. To be fair, Darian wasn't any better. They were both ready for anything that was exciting and had a high chance of death. It wasn't that they were seeking death, but they certainly liked how a narrow escape felt. Nothing is worse than that. We almost froze to death, and we were only at the beginning of the pass. Tarius shivered, remembering it as if it were yesterday. He was still convinced that nothing was that cold. No wonder no one's winning the war. No one could possibly handle crossing that pass. Darian decided to ignore the comment about the war, as he usually did, and leaned forward. So, why not try the gully? This was something he'd been considering for a while. Tarius thought about it carefully for several moments before he answered. Few have ever done it before. Those rivers are said to be brutal, and they're icy cold. And the glaciers are said to be ice, hard and brittle, with no way to cross safely. We could get ourselves killed. He was silent for several moments, mulling the idea over. Then he returned Darian's smile. Why not? Great, Darian laughed, getting to his feet abruptly. We'll leave in the morning after we put together some supplies. We'll be a little more prepared than last time, that's for sure. And we can get my father to pay for everything. He'll do it just to be rid of us." He laughed again, but this time it had a bitter sound to it. It was no secret that Darian and his father didn't really get along. Darian would be as happy to leave as his father would be to see them go. It was sad, but it was the truth. The two men just couldn't coexist. Tarius was just as anxious to get going. But as a friend, he had to mention just one thing first. "What about Arianna? She'll be expecting us. What will you tell her?" He didn't want Arianna to be angry with them. On the other hand, he wanted to go to the mountains. He'd let Darian decide. She was his sister. Darian shrugged, deciding it didn't matter. Arianna would still be there when they returned. He knew she'd understand. She was too sweet not to. Who cares? Ari will forgive me. Besides, I haven't seen her almost 3 years. Another few months won't matter. Tarius nodded, but under his smile he knew that Arianna wouldn't be happy at all. He mentally shrugged. It wasn't his sister they were abandoning once more. If Darian wanted to fob her off again, that was his choice. Darian set out to find enough supplies to see them through, leaving Tarius in charge of food. That way, they'd be sure to have enough food for a year, not merely the couple months they would be gone. Tarius always packed too much food, and sometimes that served them well. This might just turn out to be one of those times, Darian thought to himself. Darian could make sure that the supplies they had were top quality this time around. His father's never-ending purse would see to that. This little excursion would cost more than any of the others he and Tarius had undertaken. Darian would make sure of that, just on principle. He smiled, thinking it was a good thing he'd come back to Scytha and re-established his relationship with his father, if only for the money. And there was certainly money to be had. He thought briefly of informing his sister of the delay, but changed his mind. It would take too long, and he knew she'd understand in the end. Well, he hoped she would. If she didn't, there wasn't much he could do about it in the aftermath. Altering his own plans never even occurred to him. The next morning they were headed east, which was certainly not the way to Akana Valley. They were loaded with supplies of all kinds, for they didn't want to be caught unprepared. Both were ready and willing to face the challenge of the mountains again. They felt somewhat defeated after the last attempt, and saw this as a way to redeem themselves. It would probably take the better part of a month to reach the gully, at least at the pace Darian preferred to travel. Tarius hoped to be there sooner and made no secret of the fact, but there was no rushing his friend. He should know. He'd tried it often enough. Darian would not be hurried, not when he didn't have to be. They decided to spend 1 full month trying to cross the mountains, counting from the time they got to the gully. If within that time they were still stuck on the western side, they'd give up, at least temporarily. They'd return to Scytha, resupply, and go visit Arianna. Then, when they were more ready, they'd try the gully again, if they could. What they'd do if they actually crossed into the Apotel Empire wasn't something they even considered. It was unlikely they'd make it that far anyway. If they did, well, they'd have bigger problems, like evading Imperial troops on that side of the border and getting back into their own land unscathed. Darian felt mildly guilty about putting off his visit to his little sister, but she'd waited this long. Why not another few months? It's not like she was going anywhere. He would see her again eventually. It was just going to take a while. And that's our tale from L.A. Quill today. If you enjoyed this chapter, let me know your favorite moment in the comments. Until next time, may your stories always be magical.